Halloween is one of the most iconic horror franchises ever made. So when a new asymmetrical horror game featuring the IP itself was announced, people were excited. Many people thought the gameplay looked great, but they all missed one very important thing. It all looked too familiar. Almost everything about this game, the mechanics, the abilities, the escape routes, we had seen it all before. This game is a scam, and the developers are hoping you're too distracted by the Halloween IP to notice. Halloween is an upcoming 1 vs 4 asymmetrical horror game where players take on the role of either Michael Myers or one of the 4 survivors trying to escape the boogeyman. When I first saw the gameplay, it really interested me, until something smacked me right in the face. This isn't a new game. This is Friday the 13th with NPCs. And when I saw who the developers were, everything started to make sense. Illfonic developed Friday the 13th back in 2017. It was published by Gun Interactive, and the premise was almost identical to Halloween. Players had to escape Crystal Lake while Jason hunted them down. They could do this by calling the cops, escaping by boat, or escape by a car. Or if you were brave enough, you could kill Jason himself. But Friday the 13th had a very rough start. At launch, the matchmaking was broken, the bugs were everywhere, and it was just a complete mess. Once Illfonic fixed those issues though, the game actually found its footing. But then came the lawsuit. To keep it simple, the original writer of the first Friday the 13th film, Victor Miller, believed copyright law entitled him to reclaim ownership of the franchise. He initially won, but when the producer and director of some of the other films, Cunningham, appealed, the court made an interesting ruling. Miller owned only the first film, meaning he had the rights to Pamela Voorhees and Kid Jason, but not adult Jason and the iconic hockey mask. Illfonic and Gun's licensing deal was with Cunningham, so legally they were fine. But it didn't matter. During the lawsuit, the court ruled that no new Friday the 13th content could be created until it was resolved. And that was essentially a death sentence for the game. Because at the time, Dead by Daylight was its biggest competitor. It was constantly getting updated. There's new killers constantly being added, new survivors, and new content. While Friday the 13th was legally frozen, Dead by Daylight just kept growing. And by the time the lawsuit was resolved, it was already too late. Unlike Jason, the Friday the 13th game would not rise from the grave. Now we get back to Halloween, and almost everything about this game feels like a Reskin. The way Michael Myers moves, the executions, the way you interact with the environment, it all looks like Friday the 13th with a Halloween skin. The one real difference is that you can try to save NPCs. That's it. Look at Michael's abilities side by side with Jason's. Both locate survivors by sound. Both have a supernatural way of moving across the map. Both can be temporarily stunned. Both can have the police called on them. Even the escape routes feel lifted. You can escape by car. You can escape with the police. Random exits will open up across the map, with the last one not really ripping off Friday the 13th, but rather Dead by Daylight. But the thing that really sealed this for me is Dr. Loomis. When a survivor dies, they can return as Dr. Loomis armed with a revolver. If you played Friday the 13th, you know that's exactly what happened there too. Dead players can come back as Tommy Jarvis with a shotgun. And if I had to guess, the only true way to stop Michael Myers will be through Dr. Loomis. Just like Tommy Jarvis was the only one who could kill Jason. And look, I love Friday the 13th. If you asked me, I would say it was way better than Dead by Daylight, and it deserved better than what happened to it. And that's exactly why Halloween is rubbing me the wrong way, because Illfonic knows what made Friday the 13th special. They helped build it. But instead of acknowledging that, instead of saying, hey, we wanted to give Halloween fans that same experience, they buried it. When I say that this is a scam, I'm not talking in the day before sense, because I do believe that this game will come out. Based on Illfonic's track record, it might not come out in a playable state, but at least it will come out. When I call it a scam, I mean that the developer is actively pretending that this is something new, that this is something original, when that is not the case. everything we have seen for Halloween, Friday the 13th did first, with the exception of the extra NPCs. Friday the 13th was a game that Illfonic developed. And by Illfonic not saying that Halloween was inspired by Friday the 13th, to me, it just kind of feels like they're lying by omission. If you get what I'm saying when it comes to that stuff, it really just rubs me the wrong way, because it seems that they're trying to deceive people who would buy this game, when really they wouldn't have to do this. If they admitted that this game was inspired by Friday the 13th, people would still buy it because it does look like a fun experience. But they are not, and that is why I am calling this game a scam. Not because I think that it's never going to release, not because I think it's going to be quickly abandoned, but because Illfonic is trying to pass this off as something new when it isn't. But what do you guys think? Am I looking into this too deeply? Am I just overanalyzing this? Do you think it is a scam in the same sense that I do? Let me know down below. And if you like this video, consider subscribing.